And the sons of strangers shall build up thy walls, and their kings shall minister unto thee. For in my wrath I smote thee, but in my favor have I had mercy on thee.
Because all the blessings that we're going to get, which is entailing the kingdom of heaven. Isaiah the 60th chapter, I'm going to start at the 10th verse and read on down. It says, and the sons of strangers shall build up thy walls, and their kings shall minister unto thee. For in my wrath I smote thee, but in my favor have I had mercy on thee. So the sons of strangers, that's talking about the actual strangers, the other nations, shall build up thy walls. We're going to have them in slavery. So they're going to be building the kingdom of heaven, because we're not building nothing. We're not lifting a hand to move nothing. It says, for in my wrath I smote thee, but in my favor have I had mercy on thee. Therefore thy gates shall be open continually, they shall not be shut day nor night, that men may bring unto thee the forces of the Gentiles. That's talking about the actual Gentiles. We're going to take all of their substance, and that their kings may be brought.
And the sons of strangers shall build up thy walls, and their kings shall minister unto thee. For in my wrath I smote thee, but in my favor have I had mercy on thee.
For the nation and kingdom that will not serve thee shall perish, yea, those nations shall be utterly wasted. Verse 13. And the glory of Lebanon shall come unto thee, the fir tree, the pine tree, the box together to beautify the place of my sanctuary, and I will make the place of my feet glorious. So the land of Israel, the land of Jerusalem, is going to be made glorious. It's going to be made glorious once again. The kingdom is going to be built up. We had a taste of that during the time of Solomon's reign, which was for about 40 years. Verse 14, the sons also of them that afflicted thee shall come bending unto thee, and they that despise thee shall bow themselves down at the soles of thy feet. And they shall call thee the city of the Lord. The word Zion means monument, the monument of the Holy One of Israel. Whereas thou hast been forsaken and hated, so that no man went through thee, I will make thee an eternal excellency, a joy of many generations. Thou shalt also suck the milk of the Gentiles, and shalt suck the breasts of kings, meaning we're going to take all their substance. And thou shalt know that I am the Lord thy power, the Lord and thy Savior and thy Redeemer, the mighty one of Jacob. For brass I will bring thee gold, and for iron I will bring thee silver, and for wood brass, and for stones iron. And I will make thy officers peace, and thine exactors righteousness. Violence shall no more be heard in thy land, wasting nor destruction within thy borders, but thou shalt call thy walls salvation, and thy gates praise. The sun shall no more thy light by day, neither for brightness shall the moon give light unto thee, but the Lord shall be unto thee an everlasting light, and the power thy glory. The sun shall no more go down, meaning our kingdom is not going to go down. In other words, once we get back in power, we're going to be in power forever. The sun is never going to go down on our kingdom again. The sun is never going to set on our kingdom. We're going to always shine, and we're going to always be in that glory once we get into the kingdom of heaven. There's no more going back into slavery under the other nations. Esau's not going to rise back up and put us in captivity. Ham, Japheth, Ishmael, none of the other nations are going to rise up and take us down ever again. When we get on top this time, we're going to remain on top. Neither shall thy moon withdraw itself, for the Lord shall be thine everlasting light, and the days of thy mourning shall be ended. So no more mourning, no more crying, no more vexation of spirit, no more weeping, no more hopelessness because of the condition that we're in as Israelites right now. Verse 21, thy people also shall be all righteous, they shall inherit the land forever. The branch of my planting, the work of my hands, that I may be glorified. Verse 22, a little one shall become 1,000. This is in the kingdom. So what is this talking about? We're going to have sex. Again, like I said, the 2/3 that are going to pass in this destruction The 2/3 are going to come back through the 1/3 that make it. The Lord said, 2/3 shall be cut off and die, and the third will I bring through the fire. It says, a little one shall become 1,000, and a small one a strong nation. I, the Lord, will hasten it in his time.
All right. Shalom. First and foremost, I would like to give all praise and glory unto Yahweh Bahashem, Yahweh Shai Bahashem, Rakakadash, and double honors unto the apostles and the elders of GMS who rule well, teach well, being great examples towards younger brothers, and peace and blessings and salutation to the hopeful elect out there pushing his word and truth and in sincerity across the four winds in the name of Yahweh Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, pushing to get up out of here. Shalom to the hopeful elect, the believers, the listeners whom have came back to the obedience of the scriptures through faith in Yahweh Bashem Al Shai. And what I want to go into this morning, all right, morning news and prophecy, and what we're seeing is just a race to the end. You know, it's just a race to the end. You know, there's a lot of moving parts, you know, a lot of particular things, you know, that's going on at the same time, you know, in the best way, you know, to filter out, you know, the excess, okay, is to stick to the narrative of prophecy, you know, because there's going to be so many stories and conflicting stories and this happening and this person saying this, and you're going to have all this contradiction information. And that's why we have, all right, prophecy to keep the narrative on point. Okay, we deal with the narratives that align, all right, with prophecy, man. Okay, and we know one thing, you have the elites, okay, wanting to establish a new world order. Okay, and the way that they reset, all right, the economy has always been through war. Okay, they've done it in World War I, World War II, and they're attempting to do it in this Third World War. All right, and one thing about war that we have to understand was I got a clip, you know, because what makes us understand, you know, war and how things work is good to go into history. I found a few things, you know, Lord will, I do some other videos on that. But going into the history, you see, you know, similar tactics, similar agendas in these different wars. Okay. And what we have to understand that the bankers, all right, they use wars, all right, to make major shifts in the earth. Okay. To consolidate power, to consolidate wealth, okay, to strengthen certain systems and destroy certain systems. All right. And we know that these devils want to destroy this old system, this old way of governing, this old way of money, you know, all these different currencies. They want to do away with all these currencies and make one currency. They want to do away with the old form of government, democracy. They want to change it to they want to transition it to technocracy, man. Okay. And this is the agenda of the wicked. Okay. But then you have the Lord that has prophesied, all right, the Heavenly Father prophesied that there will be a war to end all wars. So this devil, all right, he started the war to end all wars that's going to remove him from power. And in the midst of that, he has to try to pull off his new world order, all right, in which he's going to fail. All right. And as we follow the narrative of prophecy, we see the Lord aligning everything up. Okay. That's going to remove Esau from power. Everything is lined up for this nigga to fail, you know, and he's going to be able to make progress within his new world order. Okay. But he's just running to the end. He's just racing to his end. What he thinks is a reset and a new beginning for him is him racing to his end. Okay. So let's get some precepts and then we'll go into, I got a little piece of history dealing with how these devils, you know, manipulate wars. Okay. Now, when you go, let's go here. All right, because we know the devils, as the scriptures say, when you go to Ecclesiastes 7:12, it says, "For wisdom is the defense, and money is the defense." Okay, so we know within these wars, these devils are able to manipulate, wars with their wealth. All right, now they're not generals, bankers. They're not generals. They're money manipulators. So their effect on the war always come from an economical side. All right, so you have the day-to-day practical fighting of wars, but then you have the money manipulation within the wars. Okay, and money is a defense. And for the longest, these devils been able to use money to defend their empire. Okay, to defend, all right, the oligarchs, man. Okay, and to strengthen themselves in the earth, man. Okay, said, but the excellency of knowledge is that wisdom giveth life to them that have it. And one thing that these elites don't have is true wisdom. All right, because that left hand wisdom is not true wisdom, man. Okay, because it's rebellion against the Most High, and that's the unwise things to do. Matter what you're able to achieve, through left hand means. Well, you're in rebellion to the Most High. So by default, that erases any achievement that you can have. All right, because your wisdom, if your wisdom puts you at odds with the Heavenly Father, well, it's not true wisdom. Okay, if a brother can post that in Sirach 19 and I believe 22, Bible Shah. Okay, but let's go here because we know, all right, that the Heavenly Father has given the earth. All right, let's get it real quick. The book of Job. All right, chapter 9 and verse 24. So it's the book of Job, chapter 9 and verse 24. And it says, the earth is given into the hand or the control of the wicked. He covered the faces of the judges thereof. Okay, and who's the only people? Because the judges is speaking about, ultimately the Most High is the ultimate judge. All right, Yahweh Shai. Okay, and Israelite men were created to be the judges of the earth, man. Okay, the righteous judges. You see, the judges according to the scriptures, the true judges. Okay, and he covered the face of those judges through our iconoclasm. All right, and this is why our people, look at Esau as being superior because they associate him with a higher power. Because he painted, all right, the God of the Bible, his son, in his image. Okay, the only nation to do that and push that as an image in the earth. Okay, the Most High being the Edomite. Okay, Yahweh Shai being the Edomite. Okay, even these Amalekites, these Amalekites, these small hats in our land claiming to be us. Okay, and they played a part into left hand witchcraft psychology of him being superior, him being chosen. Okay, and it says he covered the faces of the judges thereof. If not, where and who is he, man? Okay, so the people that cover the faces of the judges, well, by default, that's the wicked. So why I say where and who is he? Who has done that, man? Okay, and the earth has been given into his hand, and he's become proud. Okay, that's why you go to Psalm 73. Okay, because the type of control that these devils have had over the earth, man, has made them extremely proud. Okay, and one thing about pride, it gives you a false sense of capability. Okay, and one thing that we see in the midst of this third world war is that the Lord is showing how limited these devils are. Okay, he's showing the limitations that's on these devils, man. Okay, so when you go to Psalm 73 and 1, it said, truly the Most High, all right, is I'm started 3, get to the point. Okay, Psalm 73 and 3 said, for I was envious at the foolish when I saw the prosperity of the wicked. Okay, so as you look out and you see how prosperous this devil has been in his wickedness, man. Okay, and he's used to prospering in his wickedness, man. That's why he's become emboldened to try anything, man. Because Esau operates on the high risk, high reward style of rulership, man. Okay, because he's so proud. All right, and his latest venture with this third world war, okay, Well, he's finna deal with the risk. There's gonna be no reward for him, all right, in this war. Okay, it's all risk, man. You see, thus said the Lord according to prophecy, for there are no bands in their death, but their strength is firm. Yeah, generational wealth, man. You know, and this is beginning with the elites, man, the type of wealth that they've been able to pass down from generation to generation, man. You know, and each generation has just accumulated more wealth and more power. Okay, and that's why, you know, they have for the longest have had a firm grip, okay, on the affairs of the earth, man. You see? But what's happening now, he's been all right, offset by prophecy, man. Prophecy is beginning, okay, to consume this man. Okay. Prophecy is beginning to void out, okay, this devil's intention, man. Okay, to where now he's fighting uphill, and he used to being, you know, these Edomites are used to being generations ahead. Okay, they're used to being generation ahead when it comes to their scheming, you know, when it comes to their agendas. Okay, but now prophecy has walked this man down, you know, and he's going toe to toe with prophecy, man. Okay, and he's on the back foot. Okay, that's why we're seeing attacking this from this man. Okay, verse 5 it said they are not in trouble as other men, neither are they plagued like other men. You know, and these devils, and he's beginning with these elites, man. Okay, they don't have to deal with the crises of the world. Okay, they don't have to deal with the economic setbacks and poverty. They don't have to deal with, all right, the consequences of war. They start wars, but they don't have to deal with none of the consequences of war. Okay, because they're on the outside looking in. They've been on the outside looking in for a long time. You know, but this war is dragging them in the mix. Okay, because the elites are really, you know, are rich cowards, are wealthy cowards. They start these wars that they don't have to participate in. Okay, they start all these wars and crises in the earth. Okay, and they're shielded from these things. But see, this war, okay, is going to lead them into captivity. You see, they're going to be spoils of war. Okay, along with the other surviving heathens. Okay, of this judgment that's to come. All right, it said, therefore, pride compasses them about as a chain, violence covers them as a garment. Yeah, he's a powerful man. You see, especially going back to these elites, man, they're powerful men. Okay, and violence is nothing to them because they don't have to deal with the fallout of the violence that they started in the earth. Okay, these conflicts and these wars, okay, that they orchestrate. Okay, that's why they're so quick to go to war because they don't have to participate in it. Okay, if they had to put boots on the ground, you think the elites will be starting wars like they start wars? No, they start wars because they don't have to participate in the war. Okay, they can sit in the bunker and just manipulate. Okay, in the shadows, man. Okay, it said verse 7 says, their eyes stand out with fatness. They have more than heart could wish. Yeah, because these wars are just nothing but power moves for them. Okay, and then with this war with the elites, it's beyond wealth because they got wealth, man. They want to accumulate more actual resources and power. They want to put in the control system, man. Okay, because it's about power now for the elites. You know, with Donald Trump and his cronies, you know, I said, uh, Witch Coffin, okay, you know, Jared Kushner, you know, that tier of Edomites where they still doing money grabs. You see, the elites did money grabs, you know, in the 1800s, early 1900s. They was doing money grabs. Okay, now they've been just accumulating resources, okay, and control over governments. Okay, and now with this technology, they want to take this control to a whole nother level. Okay, so this is what the elites are at with it, man. So I want to go here let's go here. I want to get this quick snippet when we go into other few things. So when you go here, so just a little history now. This is dealing with the Rothschild family, okay, and how, they will fund, both sides of a war, okay, and Napoleon, all right, they started off funding Napoleon, but one thing about these devils, when these certain generals or emperors will get too powerful, okay, they will stop funding that certain general and then begin to fund the enemy, okay, and they play both sides and see they manipulate what's happening because one thing they don't have this absolute control over the war, okay, but they are able to manipulate, all right, certain outcomes economically, okay, and this is what these devils do because in the war they can sit back and say, okay, it'd be best if they win, okay, so let's stop funding them and let's keep funding them more, okay, and things swing in their favor, okay, they're not out there, strategizing, okay, but they manipulate outcomes based on economics, man. You see, so let's play this little clip.
As the Rothschild influence increased, so did their range of financial services. Mayer and his sons became prominent bankers, and for them, wars provided some of the greatest opportunities. The French Revolutionary and Napoleonic Wars from 1792 to 1815 were particularly profitable. After France's defeat by Prussia in 1871, it was the Rothschilds who provided the French government with massive loans to stabilize the country. In Britain, they lent the government £4 million in a matter of hours, allowing them to become the principal shareholder in the Suez Canal Company, transforming British trade by slashing the journey from London to India from weeks to a few days. As Napoleon Bonaparte's empire expanded across Europe, many thought his ambitions would shape the future of the continent. During the Napoleonic Wars, nations clashed, economies crumbled, and fortunes were lost. Mayer Amschel Rothschild, the family patriarch, had laid the groundwork, but it was his sons, especially Nathan Rothschild in London. While the French emperor was intent on bringing Britain to its knees through economic warfare, the Rothschilds had a different vision. They understood that the true power wasn't on the battlefield, but in the control of money. Their financial empire stretched across the continent, providing loans to warring princes, trading in essential goods like wheat, cotton, and arms, and facilitating international payments between the British Isles and Europe. Even as Napoleon tried to choke off British trade with his continental blockade, the Rothschilds had a simple yet brilliant strategy: fund both sides of the conflict. By funding both sides of the conflict, the Rothschilds ensured they would come out on top no matter who won. In Paris, Jacob Rothschild supported Napoleon's war efforts, while in London, his brother Nathan Rothschild financed the British campaign under Lord Wellington. This dual strategy ensured that no matter the outcome of the war, the Rothschilds would profit. But as the war progressed, the Rothschilds realized that Britain's victory would serve their financial interests best. Jacob began reducing his support for the Napoleonic forces, while Nathan increased his funding for the British, providing Wellington with the resources needed to continue the fight. The Rothschild network was so efficient that Nathan knew the outcome of the decisive Battle of Waterloo, a battle that would determine the fate of Europe before anyone else in London. His couriers delivered the news of Napoleon's defeat a full day before the British government received official word. Armed with this knowledge, Nathan executed his plan. He began selling bonds in small quantities, creating the impression that Britain had lost the war, causing panic in the markets. As prices plummeted, Nathan turned around and bought up bulk amounts of bonds at a fraction of their value. When the news of Britain's victory finally reached the public, bond prices soared and Nathan Rothschild made a massive profit. By the time Napoleon was exiled, the Rothschilds had achieved what no other family could. They had created a financial empire that outlived the emperor himself. As other countries,
And you see how these devils, I said, they play both sides, and as the war progress, these devils begin to, access the war and what would be beneficial for them going forward, who should win, because pretty much like I say, the elites be side betting on these wars, okay? And they make these loans. And in order to ensure payment of loans, they use, money and capital to manipulate the outcomes of wars. That's what they've been doing for a long time. All right. Because it don't matter when you fund both sides end the war on you. Okay. So these devils, this is how they control governments, okay? Because wars are so expensive, and these elites have amassed so much capital that they can finance both sides of the war, okay? And as these nations are become weakened, as they pummel each other, the elites become more wealthy, and they have more control of the earth's governments, man. You know, and in this third world war, they're running this same play, okay? And now we don't know how divided they are up top and what's what, but we know it's division up top, man. All right. And you got a lot of agendas, and then you got to factor in prophecy. Okay. But we go into the elites and how they move because it's a factor, but they are subjugated to prophecy. They can't do nothing outside of prophecy, man. And it's getting to a point to where some of these nations, they're not going to be concerned with the agenda of the elites. They're going to be concerned. The Lord's going to have them, all right, doing His will. Okay, let's get some prophecy to prove that. All right, but this how these devils play the game, man. Okay, and in their mind, all right, they're thinking that these nations are going to go to war. All these nations are going to go to war. They're going to pummel each other. They're going to go in debt. Okay, and then they're going to have all these nations in debt, and they're going to transition the money system from these multiple currency to this one world, all right, central bank digital currency. Okay, so this is the game that the elites play, man. Okay, but prophecy is going to prevail, as we always get into. Now, when you go here, just to show, all right, let's go here. First, let's go to the book of Ezekiel. Okay, Ezekiel 38. All right. So you go to Ezekiel 38, it says, and the word of the Lord came unto me, saying, Son of man, set thy face against Gog and the land of Magog, the chief prince of Meshach and Tubal, and prophesy against him. Okay, and this is speaking of Russia. All right, and the chief prince of Meshach and Tubal, all right, which is Turkey. You see, because this alliance, all right, of Russia, Turkey, all right, and later on in the chapter, it speaks about Iran. It says, and say, thus said the Lord power, behold, I am against thee, O Gog, the chief prince of Meshach and Tubal, and I will turn, all right, thee back and put hooks into thy jaws. So this is the Lord putting hooks in the jaws, okay, of Magog, which is Russia, okay, and hooks in the jaws represents full control, okay. So it's the Lord that's in full control, all right, of these nations, man. Okay, even the elites are being controlled to do the Lord's will. Okay, and the elites in their mind, because there's no one that's more deceived than them. Okay, because in their mind, all right, they're going to pull off a new world order. Okay, but the Lord is going to cause His will to prevail. Okay, and these devils are going into captivity, man. Okay, and it says, and I will bring thee forth in all thy army, horses and horsemen, all of them clothed with all sorts of armor, even a great company with bucklers and shield, all of them handling swords, man. So the Lord agenda is finna triumph, okay, what these elites are attempting to do. Okay, because this is how the elites play. They play both sides. Okay, and they look at, as the war progresses, they start to, invest more to one side than the other. Okay, they start to, manipulate the market. They do this. They try to control the outcome, through economics. Okay, well, see, that's not going to be a factor in this war. You see, prophecy is the only thing that's going to factor in to this war, man. Okay, so when you go here, dealing with Russia again, what does it say? All right, when you go to the book of Isaiah 13 and 17, it says, behold, I will stir up the Medes against them. All right, and this is speaking of Babylon. Okay, because the elites have for a long time invested heavily into Babylon. That's why Babylon, all right, has had the advantage, okay, over these other nations, man, because they pretty much had a blank check, this petrodollar, okay, system that the elites, set up through America, man. Okay, they was able to, destroy people's economies without firing a single shot. And as they weaponized the dollar, well, they created a whole economy called sanctioned economy, man, to where these nations are able to thrive outside of these American sanctions, man. Okay, so now the elite's ability to control a war economically ain't the same as it was in World War One, World War Two, okay, or in these European wars, the Napoleonic wars dealing with Napoleon, okay, in the 1800s. You see, because they weaponize the dollar so much against these nations. Certain nations have economies that exist outside the dollar, that they can still operate with. Okay, and all they need to do is operate enough to go to war, all right, against the West, man. Okay, it says, "Behold, I will stir up the Medes against them, which shall not regard silver, and as for gold, they shall not delight in it." You see that? So money ain't gonna be a factor. You see, there'll come a time where money not gonna be a factor, man. They're not gonna care, okay, about the state of the economy, the global economy. They're not gonna care. Okay, it's gonna be the Lord gonna put the spirit on these nations, man. Hey, they gonna brawl for it all, man. Okay, until Yahweh Shah returns, man. You see, and it says, "Their bows also shall dash the young men to pieces, and they shall have no pity on the fruit of the womb. Their eyes shall spare no children." Yeah, those missiles, man. Okay, and like I say, the Lord's gonna fully, all right, put the spirit on these certain nations to fulfill prophecy according to this war. Okay, and all them agendas and the treachery and double crossing and triple crossing that the elites are used to doing in the background and prevailing. That's not going to work this time. Okay, these nations are going to go rogue on the elites, man. Okay, and missiles, hey, these nukes going to fly. Okay, and it says, "In Babylon, the glory of kingdoms," because the elites made Babylon the glory of kingdoms. Because they invested so much into Babylon. Because Babylon was a tool that the elites used, okay, to weaken the earth, all right, morally, economically, militarily, okay. You see, America has enjoyed the privilege, okay, of being favored by the elites, okay, in the world economy, okay, and that's why America has so much sway, okay, in the world. But now all this waning, and the sway of the elites is waning, okay, which they're not loyal to any nation. Their whole thing is global control. Okay, but America has been, their number one weapon of choice. Okay, when it comes to making change. Okay, in the earth, man. Okay, and it says, "The beauty of the Chaldeans' excellency shall be as when the Most High overthrew Sodom and Gomorrah, man, that fire." Okay, so this is what we're seeing building up, man. Prophecy, okay, is going to prevail against everything that these devils are attempting to do. Okay, so let's go from there. I got another video I want to get into. Okay, let's see. Oh yeah, so you have now, all right. Iran is striking, Saudi Americans, oil infrastructure. Okay, so what we're seeing is the ability to produce oil, is being destroyed in this war. Okay, the ability to even produce oil is being destroyed, man. All right, which is going to play into the narrative of these devils. They're going to have to come with some, global lockdown. You know, some crisis, man. They really need poly crisis, multiple crisis, man, to pull off what they want to pull off. So let's play this. Mhm.
Hey, folks, Mr. Global here of the American Power Podcast. An update on the Iran war today. But first of all, we've lost an additional 1.3 million barrels of oil a day of oil capacity coming out of the Middle East, as we have now verified that Iran did, in fact, strike the east-west pipeline that runs through Saudi Arabia. And this is the pipeline that we are using to reroute some of the oil around the Strait of Hormuz. And this strike, we have confirmed, did knock 700,000 barrels a day of capacity from this pipeline. So that is gone until they can get it repaired. No word yet on how long that'll take. But in addition to that, Iran has begun striking oil production infrastructure throughout the Middle East. And we know for sure that they have knocked out 600,000 barrels of oil a day of oil production facilities just in Saudi Arabia alone. So there is our 1.3 million barrels of oil a day gone, in addition to what we had already lost. The war is escalating rapidly, it seems, as the Trump administration continues to try to get the price of oil down. Iran is now responding directly by trying to get the price of oil as high as possible. Today, they're striking by in Oman, and they are aggressively attacking oil production facilities. And like I said, I believe this is in direct response to the United States continually trying to bring down the price of oil. High oil prices is Iran's leverage in this war. Now, don't get mistaken. Oil prices on the futures market did fall below $100 a barrel, but the price for physical delivery of oil is still well over $135. So there's a little bit of a discrepancy there. This is only going to make those physical oil prices significantly higher. In addition to that, we've heard today from the United States and a couple of other countries that they are supposed to meet with Iranian officials in Islamabad this weekend. But Iran has come out and said, no, we're not negotiating. We are done with the United States. And then they began this full-throated assault across the Middle East right afterwards. So are they going to have negotiations or not? I don't know. A lot of stuff that happens now appears to be for our entertainment value and not really based on reality. They may not. Who really knows? But one thing is for sure, and that is the reality on the ground. And the impact of what is happening today in the Middle East is going to affect us for quite a while and make things significantly worse. And the U.S. government cannot hide what's happening inside the futures market for much longer. People look at the price of oil on their phone and think, oh, that's not bad. It's bad. Trust me, it's much worse than you think it is. I will keep you updated as best as I can.
And seeing these things on the hit in the moment, you know, these certain events that we're seeing, all right, because destroying this, see, like I say, destroying the ability to produce oil is going to have a major ripple effect, man. All right, and the elites need this narrative, okay, to push this global energy crisis, man. Okay, because the Lord not gonna let them take their foot out the gas, man. They got to go with it. Okay, and this war just gonna continue to escalate. It's gonna continue to escalate, man. Okay, putting the pressure on these devils, all right, to come on with their play. Okay, so I got another clip. It just confirmed certain things that he was saying, because I say Saudi Arabia had a pipeline that bypassed the Strait of Hormuz, and they were still able, you know, to get off, a little bit over 1 million barrels of oil, a day. Okay, but now that's been destroyed. Okay, so they're shutting down, the all these oil producing nations. All right, they're being destroyed in this war. Okay, and you say America doesn't have enough oil to replace the oil that's coming out of Saudi Arabia. Okay, because there's 20 million barrels of oil that come out of Saudi Arabia. Okay, guess what? America consumes 20 billion, all right, barrels of oil a day. All right, went into that the other day. So America, now Russia has the capacity to fill in the void of, the market. All right, because Russia, that huge nation, only uses like a little bit over 3 million barrels a day. Okay, but it's producing roughly, all right, 11, 12. Okay, so Russia has some barrels to play with, and they can fill in the void of what's being lost in the Strait. America can't. America can fill the void in certain natural gases, but that crude oil, America can't fill that void, man. I say they hype up America. Oh, we're the number one oil producing country in the world, and that's true. But you're the number one oil consuming country in the world. Okay, so what's the point? All right. So uh let's play a little bit of this and just go into the same thing. How they've been hard body, on Saudi, because Saudi is the number one producer in the Strait of Hormuz. Okay, they're the second in world reserve and oil reserve, and they're the number one producer coming out the Strait. Okay, so they're being targeted, all right, because of their alliance with the West. You know, so what we're seeing, is energy wars, man. All right, and going into the new world order. Okay, whoever has control of the energy. See, these devils, ain't no integrity between these devils, man. All right, it's not black and white with Esau neither. Man. It's a lot of gray areas because it's a lot of treachery. It's a lot of people switching side, elites switching side, nations switching side. But we know, according to prophecy, everybody's gonna turn on the whore. Okay, when it's all said and done. All right. So let's play a little more.
A Saudi industrial security worker has been killed and 7 others injured after a series of coordinated attacks struck critical energy facilities across the kingdom, marking a deadly escalation with far-reaching consequences for global markets. According to a source from Saudi Arabia's Ministry of Energy, the strikes targeted vital oil, gas and electricity infrastructure in Riyadh, the Eastern Province, and Yanbu, causing significant damage and forcing the suspension of operations at several key sites. The attacks have dealt a serious blow to the kingdom's energy network, with major refining hubs impacted, including Saytorp in Jubail, the Ras Tanura refinery, Samref in Yanbu, and the Riyadh refinery, all of which are central to processing and exporting refined petroleum products worldwide. Fires also broke out at processing facilities in Juaima, disrupting the flow of liquefied petroleum gas and natural gas liquids and adding further strain to already pressured export channels.
If you got 15 hours a week back, what would you do with it?
I'll tell you.
Officials estimate that the strikes have reduced Saudi Arabia's oil production capacity by approximately 600,000 barrels per day, a significant disruption that is already reverberating across international energy markets. While no group has officially claimed responsibility, Saudi Arabia has intercepted numerous Iranian missiles and drones in recent weeks, raising suspicions amid intensifying regional tensions linked to the broader conflict involving Iran and its allies. The scale and coordination of the attacks suggest a deliberate attempt to cripple key components of the kingdom's energy infrastructure, affecting not only oil production, but also refining, petrochemical output, and electricity generation. Global markets reacted swiftly, with benchmark Brent crude prices rising sharply as traders assessed the risk of tightening supply and prolonged instability in one of the world's most critical energy hubs. Analysts warned that the situation could deteriorate further, especially as export routes face mounting pressure, with the East-West pipeline increasingly used to divert crude that cannot pass through the strategically vital Strait of Hormuz.
So yeah, man, there's still, ongoing, attacks on this oil infrastructure. Because even like I say, even if the straits were just wide open, they don't have, they're losing the ability to produce, okay, their oil that they once used. And see, the earth needs more. And see, with these data centers, the earth needs way more oil now. This new world order is going to take way more oil and natural gas. All right, the digital infrastructure, these smart cities, that takes a lot of oil and gas. Okay, so this devil, man, he's all over the place. These elites, man, like, hey, they gotta hurry up with their move, man. Okay, because you can't just keep destroying oil infrastructure. That's finite. They don't have affinity barrels a day. Okay, and then with these data centers, they're gonna consume more. So these devils gonna have to come on with it. They gotta figure this thing out, man. Okay, as I say, the effect that they used to have in playing both sides, well, they don't have that effect like they used to, man. Okay, and the Lord got prophecy, hey, jumping off the charts. All right, so let's go here. Let's go here and see. American military was a major disappointment. Okay, the American military has been a major disappointment, man, because all right, they're used to the American, military being able to just go dominate. Okay, but this is not the case this time. You see, and that's been a setback for these devils, man. This is Ecclesiastes 19. That's like this is the book of Sirach, chapter 19 and 22. This is from the brother Amar. All right, Cabal. It says the knowledge of wickedness is not wisdom, neither at any time the counsel of sinners prudence. Okay, so the wickedness that these devils, the knowledge, okay, the left hand wisdom that these devils have been operating in is not true wisdom. Okay, it's not sound counsel, and because they've been achieving, their agendas and making these major, leaps and money grabs and consolidating power to themselves and getting control over governments, and they've been able to win with their left hand wickedness, man. It doesn't mean that it was prudent. Okay, it's not true wisdom. You see, and now we're seeing their wisdom fail as the Lord is beginning to intervene with prophecy, man. Okay, prophecy is working against these devils. And see, even when they was winning, they were just prophecy working with these devils, man. Because these devils had, all right, to be exalted in the earth, man. The earth had to be given into their hands. You see? So they was able to prosper in their previous wickedness, man. But we come into a time where they're not going to prosper, man. Now we're getting ready to see how foolish their counsels have been. Because this is where it's led them to. Okay? This is where all this wicked counsel on the left hand side has led them to be at odds with Yahweh Bashim Al Shai. Okay, let's get this. Revelation 12 and 12. It says, "Therefore rejoice, ye heavens, and ye that dwell in them. Woe unto the inhabitants of the earth and of the sea, for the devil is coming down unto you, having great wrath, because he knoweth he have but a short time." All right, and these devils, they on the back foot, man. And they know they can't keep dragging this thing out, man. They got to make some moves. Okay, Esau gonna have to make some moves, man. Okay, because what he's trying to do and what's happening, man, is, hey, time is short. Okay, hey, he running on E. Esau running on E, man. Okay, he got 10 miles to empty, but he got 100 miles to go, man. He gonna have to do something drastic, man. Okay, so prepare for the devil. All right, hey, to become more to be more extreme, to be more drastic, man, in his tactics, man. Okay, when you down 30, okay, with 2 minutes left, man, you can't. Yeah, you can't run no play, man. You gotta shoot. You gotta get some shots off, man. Okay, Esau gonna have to start firing up some shots, man. You see? So let's play this, all right? Because the American military, okay, they went out there and flopped, man. Okay, let's play this.
Off precision guided munitions, so we can't do long range strike anymore, not in a meaningful fashion. Part of the strike package that was moving in were B-52s armed with Mark 84 gravity bombs with the satellite guided components, or the JDAM components. They pulled back when it suddenly became clear that, oh, the Iranians have long range standoff radar guided missiles still in service. That's what shot down the F-15E. And we can't come in and suppress those effectively anymore because they also have this whole new thing that we hadn't planned on, electro-optical guided, infrared guided combination thereof. We didn't defeat the Iranian air defense. The Iranians played us.
Apparently you can go from 0 to a complete site in just a single prompt with Wix Harmony. I don't know if this is going to be possible. Or vibe coding meets drag and drop.
We didn't destroy their Navy. Who the hell do you think laid those mines in the water?
Right.
The Iranian Navy. Hey, Pete, how's that looking for you, pal? And I can guarantee you this. Iranian aircraft will be flying in the Iranian skies because they haven't been destroyed either. They've been stored. The Iranians rode out our attack, rode out the best we have, and now they've come in with phase 2, and we don't know how to deal with it.
So basically, just with the boots on the ground, Iran has taken America's best punch conventionally. As far as conventional warfare, Iran has taken America's best punch, and they're still up swinging. Okay, this is why America's been begging for a ceasefire, man. Okay, and in that little speech he was talking about, he's going to end civilization. The only thing he could have been talking about is nukes. That's why all these other nations got involved. Like, hold on, nigga, chill, you know, because first of all, it ain't that time yet. Because there's other things that have to happen before this war goes nuclear, man. But this shows you the desperation of America because they've used up a lot of those Tomahawk missiles where they're able to fire from those fighter jets outside the range of America. Of Iran's air defense. But they ran out of them. All right, these JDAMs, it causes them to have to come closer. Then they start running out of them. And now they're using older missiles, okay? Now they have to get even closer, and that's why you've been hearing nothing but these reports about American aircraft coming down, okay? Because Iran, all right, they've been absorbing all the high-tech weaponry, okay? And they just lured them American fighter jets closer and closer into their kill zone, and now they just picking them apart. Okay, Iran has strategically broke down America's ability to project power. Iran has strategically broke them down. Okay, they used to be able to fly from a distance. Okay, because they had those refueling tankers. Those refueling tankers have been destroyed. So now they're having to come in closer, and they've been picked off, man. Okay, so it was to a point where that's why when Trump was saying we're gonna end the civilization. Like, it's only one way. What weapon gonna do that? Okay, because they've been bombing with everything they got conventionally. So what weapons could he be talking about outside of nukes? Okay, that's why Russia and China, these other nations, like, nigga, you can't do that. Because see, people think that you just nuke Iran. If you nuke Iran, you know that radiation gonna carry. You can't just nuke one country. No, if you drop a nuke, okay, that just don't affect that country. It affects a whole region. Okay, so these other nations had to step in and tell America, look, man, that ain't gonna happen. Okay, because I don't think, and the West just got this mentality like they just gonna nuke. Nigga, this ain't World War II where you the only one that got the bomb. Okay, and eventually it's gonna get there, but it just ain't that time because of other policies have to come to pass. You see, But America's military has drastically underperformed. Drastically underperformed, man. Okay, and it's because of prophecy. You see? So let's play a little more.
We had two options to save face. First option was to go into Natanz, Isfahan, and do the seizure. I'm writing something up right now. I don't want to, drag on forever, but there's more to this mission than meets the eyes. This rescue mission. It's not what it's much more than that. It was the effort to go after the uranium, and it failed. Absolutely failed. Desert One type calamity. And two, we can't carry out an amphibious operation. The USS Tripoli couldn't get near the shore. It's impossible. And the military said, we're done. Trump has no options. He can't secure the Strait of Hormuz. And that's the critical thing. Iran has their fingers on the throat of the global economy right now. They can squeeze anytime they want. And there's nothing Donald Trump can do to change that. No amount of bluster will change that. And that's what's really hurting him. He can't declare victory. So he had no choice but to bluster, and make it appear that he brought the Iranians to the table. You saw Pete Hegseth. We have dominance. We dominate everywhere. Again, if you have to say you have dominance, you don't have dominance. It becomes quite obvious. So I take everything this president says. There's nothing more the United States can do. We don't have the military capacity. And, we bring in China. Understand this. We just proved to the Chinese that we can't defeat them in Taiwan. I just want everybody to understand that. We just proved there's no longer a question that we can't do anything to China. The National Security Strategy document published in November of last year said the United States will dominate the Chinese by seeking conventional military overmatch in the Pacific. Overmatch. That means we're superior. We're superior to nothing. We can't beat the Iranians. Imagine what we do against the Chinese in Taiwan. Nothing. We can't secure the South China Sea. So the Chinese just proved that they have their fingers on the throat of the international shipping lanes that go through that. They control everything. This is a game changer. The United States needs to pull back and regroup. And that's what we're doing. Look at what we're doing in Europe. I mean, I think we're withdrawing 100,000 troops. That's what Marco Rubio says we're probably going to do. I think NATO's dead because we're disengaging from Europe because we can't compete in Europe anymore. It's too expensive.
And we know the scriptures say they shall hate the whore. Those EU nations, man. They withdraw from Europe. Yo, America's looking bad out here, man. And all these nations are looking at America different, man. All right. This whole myth of invincibility and, this whole myth of being untouchable and who would dare. Nah, man, that's being destroyed, man. And it's setting up for prophecy to be fulfilled. Okay, so the Lord is tearing down this mirage, okay, of American dominance in the world, man, because there's a power shift. Okay, we're seeing a major power shift in the world. Okay, and it's going to be for the sake of prophecy. Now, the elites in their mind, well, they want to capitalize off this power shift. Okay, so they're going to begin to manipulate more and more to bring about a global reset. Okay. But what's being manipulated, these nations are being manipulated by the Most High to fulfill prophecy, man. Okay, to fulfill his will. Okay, if brother want to post that in Revelation 17, verses 16 and 17. Okay, those Marines that was on the way, okay, they've been shot at and ran off. Okay, there's nothing that America can militarily do, man. Okay, against Iran. There's nothing they can do. They've been broken down. Okay, that's why Trump was signaling nigga, I'm finna nuke you niggas, man. Okay, that's basically what he was saying. All right. But they want that, it ain't that time. All right, but eventually it's gonna go there. Okay. Well, other prophecies have to play out. So let's let me see. It might be a little more. Let me see.
Expensive. It takes 6 months to deploy a heavy armored brigade. It used to take us 10 days to deploy 300,000 troops rolling in on pre-positioned equipment. That doesn't exist anymore. The United States is literally a paper tiger. We look good, but all of our capabilities are legacy capabilities that don't match modern realities. I'll just leave it this. Commandant of the Marine Corps Berger in 2019 said, we can't carry out our mission because we're trapped by legacy amphibious operations. We can no longer put all our Marines on a handful of amphibious ships and go in and project power ashore because they'll sink us before we get there. That was just proven. The USS Tripoli is retreating from the region, not advancing on the region. And there we are. This is why the United States will accept a ceasefire. It'll be.
Yeah. So what he said, going to legacy, the legacy tactics, used to work. All right, what America used to do to dominate the war, they don't work anymore because all these nations have planned and studied American warfare and tactics, man. Okay, and they modified and customized their military strategy and weaponry, okay, to counter, okay, America's strengths. So the things that used to be strengths for America's military are now as weakness, man. Okay, and America's pride had them, just because they had this unlimited money and they got way more, equipment than everyone else, and they got these bases everywhere, and they got, the more technology, the most advanced AI in their mind. Okay, they was far superior. But now we're seeing in practical war, it's not playing out like that. Just like you said, a paper tiger on paper. Yeah, America is the greatest military power to ever exist on paper. Okay, but in practical battle, we're starting to see this nigga is overrated. Okay, and that's what these nations are seeing, man. And so this is why we're going to see such sudden shifts, and the elites going to have to start moving a different way, and gambling with this, and you see, because America jumped out there and was a big disappointment, man. Okay. Let's I think I got one more video too. We'll cue it up and then we'll get this. Yeah, probably two more. So yeah, we'll play these two. What got there from me. So this is this is the brother warriors for Yahushua, Revelation 17-16. It says, "And the 10 horns which thou sawest upon the beast, these shall hate the whore, and shall make her desolate and naked, and shall eat her flesh, and burn her with fire." Okay? And these are the EU nations, man. And they're going to burn her with nukes. Because the EU nation, only thing that they can do militarily is just do this. All right? The EU can't fight no conventional war. They don't got nothing. Okay? The only thing left for EU to do is just sit in the cut, okay, and then shoot nukes on America when the time calls for it, man. Okay, that's what EU is in the cut. All right, they're just in the corner waiting to hit that corner 3 with them nukes on America, man. Okay, and they're constantly being separated. There's constant separation from America and these EU nations, man. And this war has just driven a bigger wedge. Okay, and this is prophecy, man. Damn what the elites got going on and trying to do. That's why I stick to the narrative of prophecy, man. Okay, it said, "For the Most High have put, all right, in their hearts to fulfill His will." The Most High put it in their hearts, their minds, to fulfill His will, and to agree and give their kingdom unto the beast, until the words of the Most High shall be fulfilled. Yeah, because there's things that has to happen before this war goes nuclear, man. The nuclear aspect of the war is being held off. Okay, until, all right, this MOTB is made mandatory, man. Until they get to that point. All right, and we know it's going to take a lot of civil unrest, chaos, famine, violence. Okay, before they make this thing mandatory. All right, the economies have to collapse. The global economy has to collapse. Okay, and the Lord already has it in the minds of these nations to do His will. Okay, to turn America to a desert, man. Okay, so these nations, they giving themselves over to the dollar system. Okay, these EU nations, okay, have forwarded their security to America, within this beast system, okay. And the only thing they have left, man, is those EU nations that have nuclear capability. The only thing they have left is to shoot at America when that time comes. That's all they got. Okay, because you ain't heard a peep from these niggas. Because usually NATO nations are active, in the Desert Storm. Okay, UK, French, all of them, they were there. Okay, the war with Iraq, the war in Libya, war in Syria. NATO usually highly involved, man, but they ain't getting involved in this one, man. Okay, because according to prophecy, they finna flip. Okay, they're laying the snare for America. So let's play a little bit of this. I thought this was interesting too, because we know Russia and China, have been aiding Iran in the background, and China, and Russia have been vouching for Iran within the UN meetings. Okay, and we know that China, with this whole UN. Okay, because remember, these nations have ambition, and it's like Game of Thrones. You see, they're not operating with the information we have. They're operating with these worldly ambitions of power, okay, for their people. You see, then you have the elites playing, and manipulating, pulling forth for technocracy. So you have all this in play, but ultimately, all right, and the Lord setting up for prophecy prevail. So let's play this. I thought this was interesting too.
Military sources in Iran, they will not volunteer this information. Apparently, there were 3 cargoes from China that landed in Tehran between yesterday and today. 3 huge cargo planes, probably bringing hardcore military material to Iran. And there is a possibility that Iran was running out of essential munitions, and the Chinese are helping. We don't know. There's no way we can confirm that. But this would explain why China, at the last minute, influenced Iran to take the ceasefire. Because until literally the last minute, Iran was inclined not to take the ceasefire. Okay, what are we going to get out of it? And after all that absolutely crazy Muslim world WhatsApp phone call dementia lasting hours or more than a day, the Chinese at the last minute told Iran, okay, take it. There are lots of actors, intercontinental, in fact, that will appreciate the fact that you are negotiating. So in terms of increasing your political capital is a good thing. We have your back. That's the Chinese talking to Iran, the way we interpret it. But we don't know necessarily how deep China has Iran's back.
So there's a sum of what he said so far. All right. There's speculation that Iran, where they know Iran and China, was talking directly. Okay. And China was telling Iran, like, look, let's talk with them. And Iran was like, what are we getting out of a ceasefire? We up. So why would we do a ceasefire? We got them on the back foot. So China was like, look, just talk to them, okay? And we gonna guarantee certain shipments. So if y'all had to go back to war, we finna load y'all back up, because Tehran was under constant fire. So nothing could come in like that. All right, Iran, you just see, once war starts, you gotta fight with what you got. Okay, a ceasefire also is a time for these nations to reload, to reload the clip. Okay, so China was like, look, we got some more weaponry. All right, so he's saying 3 cargo ships of Chinese munitions landed in Tehran, okay, when the ceasefire was declared, okay, because there's still been fighting, but it's been real light. You know, the biggest thing was what we watched earlier, the strike on Saudi's oil, all right, refineries and their pipeline, okay. But Tehran hasn't been getting really hit like that. So China has been able to ship, okay, these cargo ships of weaponry, man. You know, and Nima, he's going to break it down a little more as we watch it. So China, you know, because see, remember the yuan, all right, is uh, you know, either the yuan or the Bitcoin, okay, has been the main currency to let these ships through the Strait of Hormuz. Okay, so China has a lot of interest in this, and China gets a lot of oil from Iran. So China, like, nigga, they talking about nuking y'all. Like, look at it, you know. Let's just talk and see if we can get some deals, if we can get some things in your favor. Because if Iran has full control of the Strait of Hormuz, that's a win, which they have it now. But if you can get it legitimized internationally, you know, major win for them, the kings of the East. Okay. And which, you know, I say the least in the background, manipulate things and doing whatever. All right. But what you have, all right, China, like, look, just talk with these niggas, and if it don't go good, y'all gonna be scrapped down for the next phase of this war. We gonna scrap y'all down some more. You know, so them 3 cargo ships are already pulled up to Tehran full of weaponry, man. Okay, so let's play this.
And considering that this decisions, Nima, in Beijing, they're very opaque. It's, you know, you never know how they take these decisions. And especially for us foreigners, it's off limits. It's impossible for us to know. So considering our contacts or, you know, analysts that we talk to, we can have an idea. But there are many elements that favor China telling Iran, sit down and talk, while the Chinese are also coordinating with Iran militarily. At the same time, when it comes to the Strait of Hormuz, until 1 or 2 days ago, the strait now is closed again and open only for a few ships a day. The Chinese ships had no problem. And very important for China, this toll booth is being operated in yuan and payment through CIPS, the Chinese international paying system, this is the beginning of the petro yuan, in place. So this, from a Chinese point of view, this is swimming, and it's not going to change. For instance, what is going to change is if major countries accept officially that the Strait of Hormuz from now on is managed by Iran, they submit to the rules. So there's going to be a stampede of nations all over the world following it.
And what we have to understand, all right, the petro yuan is not going to be, you know, the new world reserve currency. But it's going, if these nations start jumping ship, okay, and have to buy this oil in yuan, okay, that's going to tank the dollar, which is going to tank the whole global system. System is being tanked on purpose, all right, because it has to be for the new currency to come into play. Okay, so we're watching this system being intentionally tanked, okay, within this war. All right, everybody got their own agendas, but ultimately all these agendas lead to prophecy being fulfilled. You know, all these different, you know, everybody's trying to make a play in this country and that country. Okay, you know, there's a lot of things being manipulated. Okay, well, we have to understand, you know, the yuan is going to be used as a tool to tank the dollar, which is going to tank the global economy. Okay, So it's gonna be interesting, with these deals. So they're still having negotiation. They're supposed to talk today. Okay, first round negotiation supposed to start today. Okay, and then you're gonna have more negotiation within these 2 weeks. All right, and if they reach a deal, the main thing, because they had the whole 10 point, the 10 points of bulletin of Iran on certain things that they requesting in the deal that they're demanding. Okay, but the main thing, if they legitimize, all right, Iran's control of the Strait of Hormuz, okay, prepare for the dollar to tank, okay, because they're going to be accepting you one. They're not going to be using the SWIFT system anymore. All right, they're going to be using, the Chinese financial system, okay, and I say China is sending a lot of weaponry, okay, to continue in the war, okay. So we're going to see. It's going to be interesting next week or so, okay.
And guess who's on the front line? South Korea. They sent a special emissary to Iran, probably going to discuss the passage of tankers going to South Korea. And of course, they will abide by the new rules. So if South Korea officially abides by the new rules, that's it. That's it. Everybody else will follow. So Iran is playing with that as well. Because they know that a closed Strait of Hormuz, or nearly closed, Asia is bleeding, literally. So the number two victims they're not the West, they are Europe and Asia. And obviously, Asian nations are mobilizing them, especially South Korea, much more than Japan. Japan is an extremely complicated case, and it's an American vassal. South Korea has more leeway. So this is where we are at the moment. The way this whole thing is interconnected, which is extremely complex, and Iran has to juggle with all these variables. And at the same time, because Iran now has a different stature globally, now it's starting to be seen as, I wouldn't say a big power, but an emerging big power on a global stage. They have to manage this new political capital, right? So it is.
And yeah, you talking about South Korea, because what's happening in these nations, they're tiptoeing and having these meetings, with Iran about getting their oil through the Strait of Hormuz. All right, in which the new payment system is, all right, the yuan, okay, and Bitcoin, which is a digital currency, man. So the elites there, they got to play in motion, okay. Their original play with America coming and dominating and taking the straits, that ain't go, okay. So now we see they're gonna start manipulate, okay, the natural course of the war, okay. through Russia and China, but then it's gonna come a time where, okay, what the elites got going on ain't gonna matter, man, because this war gonna get intense, okay, and it's just gonna be straight prophecy, man. So let's play a little more.
A very uncomfortable situation to sit down with these genocidals on the same table on a ceasefire that mostly benefits the U.S. So we're gonna see, let's say, we're going to see the tenor and the tone of the first day of the negotiations, where this is going, or if it's collapsing immediately. Yeah, every scenario is possible. But I think for most of us, the most important element in the big picture is how complex is the chessboard that Iran has to navigate, and they cannot make a single mistake. That's how difficult it is, right? Okay, Nima, now I'm asking you practically the same question. How do you see the pros and cons of Iran sitting on the same table in Islamabad, convinced by the Pakistanis that there's going to be some sort of meaningful dialogue with the Americans? And of course, there won't be interference by the death cult.
Yeah. I think those three cargoes that you've mentioned are basically related to the defensive part of the military operation in Iran, the defensive capabilities of Iran. Because in terms of the offensive, they don't have any shortage. But it seems that, through some sort of negotiations behind the scene, Chinese government convinced Iran that they can improve in this short period of time. If the talks fail, they can improve their capabilities in terms of their defensive, electronic warfare, or some sort of improvement in the air defense system of Iran. I think that was the whole agenda.
Yes, and that's heavy, man. Because like I said, a ceasefire, is for these nations to get. It provides a window because China has been studying this war closely. All right, so China more than likely they have customized weaponry just for, all right, this war. All right, so he said he said the Chinese government, telling Iran like, look, we can improve your defense in the short term. So do the ceasefire, have talks with them, and if the talks collapse, boom, we got something for you, to further you along in the war. Okay, and it's defensive capabilities, man. And one thing about it, when you take away America's, offense, man, America don't have no defense. All right, and that's been proven. Okay, the small hats don't have defense, man. So it's going to increase Iran's ability to absorb Americans and the small hats attack, but then continue to deliver their strikes, man. Okay, so the stage is being set, all right, for more war, all right, and these nations to run to the end, which is this is interesting, man. Okay, so let's get we'll get a couple more precepts, all right, and we'll probably wrap it up. Let's go here. Let's go to Daniel 4 and 17. So you go here to the book of Daniel chapter 4. All right, this is the book of Daniel chapter 4 and verse 17. It said, the matter is by decree of the watchers, and the demand by the word of the holy ones, to the intent that the living may know that the Most High ruleth in the kingdom of men. Okay, and this is what's going to be known in the earth, that the Most High ruleth in the kingdom of men. Okay, these nations and everybody, is vying for power, trying to position themselves for this new world order. Well, what's going to be known in this third war is that the Most High ruleth in the kingdom of men. Okay, and it's him, all right, that's controlling, all right, the outcomes, okay, of all the conflict in the earth, man. Okay, he says, and give it to whomsoever he will. He set it over the bases of men. And right now, the bases of men has been set up in the earth. Okay, not because they're high IQ, okay, because they're military prowess, okay, they're just so innovative. No, the Lord set them up for prophecy's sake, man. And he's going to bring them down for prophecy's sake. Okay, let's go there. Let's get that in the book of Psalms. All right, Edom has served this purpose, okay, as the wicked rulers of the earth, and that's why the Most High, okay, is wrapping this nigga up, man. Okay, he's wrapping up this wicked empire. All right, Psalm 75 and 5 said, lift not up your horn on high, speak not with a stiff neck, for promotion coming neither from the east, nor from the west, nor from the south, but the Most High is judge. He putteth down one and setteth up another, man. So what we're finna see is the Lord bring an empire down and set another one up. And this empire is going to be the everlasting empire of Israel, man. So all these nations in their mind, they're thinking that they're setting their nation up to be in a good position for years to come. No, this is the war. So we go through, details of war, all right, for the sake of prophecy, because it's all about prophecy being fulfilled. Okay, but the outcome, all right, that these heathens, are anticipating is far from the outcome according to prophecy, man. Okay. And it says, verse 8 said, for in the hand of the Lord there is a cup, and the wine is red, is full of mixture, and he poured out of the same, with the dregs thereof, all the wicked of the earth shall wring them out and drink them, man. So these Edomites finna drink of this cup of captivity, okay? This cup of slavery, this cup, all right, of slaughter, okay? We have to drink of that cup, you see? So now Esau, all right, and these nations, they're finna drink of that cup, man. Okay, of captivity, man. You see? Verse 9, because that's what's being orchestrated is the captivity of all these heathens, man. That's why scripture says, why do the heathen rage and imagine a vain thing? Okay? So as you see, they like I said, all these nations are trying to make power moves to posture themselves going into this new world order, man. It's all in vain. Okay? Because everything that they're doing is just leading up to the second coming of Yahushua, which is their enslavement, man. Okay? It said, but I will declare forever, I will sing praise to the power of Jacob. All the horns of the wicked will I cut off, man. The horns is their power. These governments, man. Okay? They're going to be cut off. You see? It said, but the horns of the righteous shall be exalted, man. Okay? And that's the throne of David that's going to be established in the earth in righteousness forever, man. Okay? So, yeah, I'll leave it there. Lord will. All right, you brothers. All right, and you few sisters edified once again. I'm going to give all praise and glory unto Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahushai, Bahashem, Rakakwadash, and double honors unto the apostles and the elders of GMS who rule well, teach well, being great examples to us younger brothers. And peace and blessings, salutations to the whole of Shalom.